So hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So we're on week 7 of our ISV webinar series, and thank you for joining us. Just a few points for me to tick off before we begin. The first one being that the session will be recorded, and if you have any questions during the webinar, you can just pop them in the chat. Brian won't be with us today, unfortunately, just because of time zone differences, but we will forward the questions over to him if there are any. So firstly, it's lovely to have you with us today. And for those of you who I haven't met, I'm Renee and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Bamboo Cloud. For anyone who's new here, our aim here at Bamboo Cloud is to help organizations take the very best of the Microsoft Cloud in order to help them to transform and grow. Today's session will be focused around D365 Business Central. Part of my role is to educate you on and to help you to understand what you already have access to within Business Central, along with how we can add extra components to it to benefit your organisation. This is through third-party apps, which we often refer to as ISV solutions. Today won't be a deep dive tech session, and we aim to keep it in a language which enables you to understand what it can do for you and how it can benefit your business. Today's session will showcase, educate you on, and help you to understand how Warehouse Insights can enhance your WMS capability to transform your warehouse processes. Unfortunately, as previously mentioned, Brian won't be able to join us today just because of the differences in time zones. However, he has prepared a demonstration video for us that I will now click into. So I just want to double check that everyone can hear my sound. So if anyone can give me a thumbs up or anything when I play this video, that would be great.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. This is Mark here, and today I'm going to take you through a little bit of our Warehouse Insight product. And to get started, what we're going to go through today, just a brief PowerPoint presentation, a little bit about us. Then we'll jump right into the software demo and cover it off with some pricing and other information. Probably 45 or so minutes today, depending on how quickly I speak. A little bit about InsightWorks. If you don't know who we are, we've been around for about 10 years now. The product we're looking at today actually predates, sort of the InsightWorks brand, where it was, the first version was built back in like 2007, 2008. We didn't really start selling it until 2013 to sort of the wider marketplace. But at any rate, we've been around for about 10 years. We work primarily in, warehousing and manufacturing industries. So we have a bunch of add-ons I'll show you in a sec for those industries. We're based out here in Canada, but we do work globally. And most of the work we do is through our reseller partners. So if your existing NAV or Business Central partner is one of our resellers, they should be able to help you out with quotes and things like that, any questions you have. If not, they'll get in touch with us, or I'll give you some links at the end to get in touch with us directly if you need to. All right. Now with that, let's talk about what we do. So today, of course, we're going to be focused on Warehouse Insight. That's, full-scale WMS solution. But we have a whole bunch of other products available for NAV and Business Central as well. Now, it looks like most of you are in Business Central, but there's a few NAV people. So we do support, the older versions of NAV from 2013 all the way up to 2018. And most of it works the same. Today, the stuff you're going to be seeing, most of it works exactly the same in NAV, but there are some features and things like that that are now Business Central only. Okay, so generally we recommend upgrading if you can, but again, everything does work in NAV for the most part. Now, these, I'll give you some links at the end to look at these products, but the ones I wanted to talk about are at the bottom here. So if you are in Business Central and if you're on the cloud version of Business Central, you can go to AppSource and you can install any of these products for free. There's no registration, there's no dealing with us, anything like that. You can install them and you can start using them immediately. And one of the key ones here is this WMS Express. So this is really a light version of Warehouse Insight. If you only need the core capabilities that, for the warehouse, which are things like receiving, picking or shipping, inventory counts, and bin-to-bin movements, WMS Express does all of that on the handhelds, and it's free, and you can install it and use it and everything just on your own. All right, so that quite often I'll actually recommend using WMS Express as you're getting into it. And if you decide you need the higher level functionalities of Warehouse Insight, you can always just bump up to that. But this is a great place to start regardless. Graphical scheduler, if you're into manufacturing, allows you to drag and drop your production schedule and plot all sorts of information on that graphical schedule in Business Central. Print Node Connector, if you've been dealing with Business Central, you know printing is a bit of a pain. So this Print Node Connector really helps. You sign up with a company called Print Node, and you know, they have a paid and a free plan, but our connector to that is free, and it lets you do nice cloud printing, including from the handheld devices, so I can actually print from handhelds. Then we've got Doc Extender here, which is drag and drop document management. I can quickly drag files, emails, attachments, all that kind of stuff into Business Central. It'll upload it to either SharePoint or to Business Central itself. So you've got a nice, handy document management tool. And barcode generator here is great for generating your own item labels or using some of the pre-canned reports we supply, or creating test barcodes, whatever you like. I'll show you a little bit of that in the demo. All right, so those are the products that we have available. Now let's talk more about Warehouse Insight. But before I get into that, let's talk a little bit about barcoding. So if you're new to barcoding and you want to know, well, you probably already know why you want barcoding, but from our perspective, there's really two, you know, sort of key reasons you'd want that. One is inventory accuracy, and the other is the timeliness of the information, right? We're now a real-time system. And that inventory accuracy manifests itself in a lot of different ways. For, you know, the most typical one is if I send somebody out to pick a specific product from a bin in the warehouse, we have a high degree of confidence that that item is going to be there. They're not going to be running around the warehouse for an hour trying to find it. We're going to send them to the right spot for the right product, and then they're going to physically scan that product. They're physically verifying everything they do. So our inventory can't get out of whack, right? I pick up this box and I scan it. If I picked up the wrong box, it's going to yell at me. So that's going to prevent me from shipping the wrong product, right? And then having to pay to ship it back and ship the right one out and all that kind of stuff. It's going to prevent me from receiving the wrong product. It's going to allow me to track serial numbers and lot numbers. And maybe those are things you don't do today. Is too onerous to write down a 20-digit serial number. Well, if I can just go beep and get that serial number, that's a big advantage. The other one is that timeliness of information. We're real time, right? We're scanning, everything is going into Business Central. So you're never going to have a situation where somebody forgot to hand in the paperwork, or, you know, nobody's typed it in and posted it yet. Everything is going into the system in real time, and that can save a lot of time and money. All right, now you probably already knew that, so let's talk about how Warehouse Insight addresses that, or why would you even want Warehouse Insight compared to the 20 other systems that are out there? First of all, very advanced warehouse management capabilities. So, you know, Warehouse Insight is built right into Business Central, so there's no separate database that you need to integrate or anything else. It leverages a lot of the base Business Central warehouse capabilities and extends those. So you get a ton of functionality at a very low cost. Right, so it quite often surpasses, or at least meets, those standalone WMS solutions that are, you know, 10 times the cost of Warehouse Insight. And the other side of that, you know, the cost side, even if we were free, it wouldn't matter if we didn't have that functionality. And we do have that level of functionality. Now, if cost is an issue, again, you've got WMS Express, the light version, which is free, and you can start that and doesn't cost you anything. Now, we do have the ability to extend the solution. So if you get in, and, you know, out of the box, it's got a lot of capabilities I'll show you in a sec. But if you decide you want a custom app, or you want to change the way something works, or whatever, you have complete control over that. And when I say you, I mean you. You know, quite often it's us or the partner doing the work. But if you have the internal expertise, you can create your own applications. You can modify existing applications. You can do whatever you like in the system. Okay, it's wide open. We publish all the development guides and everything on the knowledge base, and you can do whatever you like. I did mention it's available on NAV and Business Central, though again, Business Central, all the new goodies are going into Business Central. Most of what I show you today is still available in NAV, but as time goes on, all the new goodies are in Business Central. We also support Android and Windows, and kind of like NAV and Business Central, Windows is going away, but if you have a bunch of legacy devices in your warehouse, you want to keep using them, great. Plug them in, and we'll likely support those unless they're, you know, over 10 years old. They may not work very well, but we do support those Windows devices. But anything new is going to be Android. And with that, we can actually supply that hardware as well. So we supply the software, the hardware. We often do the implementation, and we do the ongoing support for that. Now, the implementation and the support, quite often the partners will get involved there, your existing partner, but we can do all of that for you. So you've got one company to come to for all your requirements in the warehouse. All right. Now let's talk briefly about hardware. I mentioned, everything is Android. There's no iOS support. That's fairly rare in the warehouse unless you've got some iPad somewhere on a pick card or whatever. But everything is going to be Android, and this is, a pretty typical warehouse style device. I'll show you here in a sec. We do run on phones, and quite often people will try WMS Express and they'll try it on a phone, and that's great, if you need to do periodic scanning and you don't need something rugged, but phones just don't work very well in a warehouse environment. You want something a little more rugged, a little more capable with a dedicated scanner. And down to tablets, I mentioned the iPads. We don't support the iPads, but a Windows tablet or an Android tablet running on a pick card or a forklift or whatever, no problem, we will support those. And if you need help with figuring out what kind of hardware is best for you, go to our website and click the hardware button up at the top there. It's got a buyer's guide, it's got a video, it's got a article on there on how to choose the type of device you want, and then it's got the pricing and all that kind of good stuff on there. Or contact us and we'll help you out. All right, enough sales pitch there. Let's talk a little bit about barcoding. So if you're doing your own barcoding, we typically recommend these data matrix barcodes. So, these are becoming more and more prevalent every day, and I'm sure you've seen them before. But the advantage of these guys, if you're doing your own barcoding, this little one at the bottom here, that's about a 1/2 inch square if I print that one out. And I can fit 40 characters worth of information in that barcode, roughly. And so that means I can fit item number, lot number, expiration date, quantity, unit of measure, variant code, all of that could be in one barcode. I scan it and I've got everything I need in a single scan. Alternatively, if I make that barcode 1.5 inches square, I can scan that with the right scanner from anywhere from 30 to 70 feet away. So what that means is I can be sitting in the forklift and I could be scanning pallets on the forks or up at the top rack or whatever without getting out. So again, we recommend these guys because 1.5 inch square barcode is still, a pretty small barcode, and being able to scan that from 40 feet away is pretty impressive. Now, the flip side of this is we don't want you doing your own barcoding, right? We don't want you to have to print your own barcode labels, all that. I mean, if you're manufacturing and you need to label the product you're building, sure, but really everything we want is coming in from the vendor. We want your vendor to do all your barcoding for you because it's going to save you time. And when they do that, we don't care what kind of barcode they send you. It can be any sort of standard format that's out there. It can be some custom format. Doesn't really matter. We can read any data you like out of that barcode, and all those elements I mentioned earlier with item number, lot number, all that kind of stuff can be in that barcode. We can read it. It's just configuration. All right. So that's a little bit about, what we're going to cover off today. And what I'll be doing is I'll be doing the demo in our Business Central Cloud instance here. So that's where I'll be doing sort of all the demos. But we're not going to be spending a lot of time in here. What we're going to be doing is spending time, looking at the actual devices here that I have in my hand. So what you're seeing here is the webcam with, my hands. Hi, I'm waving there. Webcam with my hands and this device. So this is the device I'll be using as we go through the scanning. And it's a Honeywell CK65, physical keypad, and it's got these F keys here at the bottom and that kind of stuff. This one has a camera. This one actually does happen to be a long-range scanner, so it can scan up to about 50 feet away. And that's a pretty typical style device. You can get them with pistol grips and all sorts of fun stuff. This little guy here is another good example. This one happens to be running WMS Express, but and you can see the difference between sort of the number of applications you get for each there. But WMS Express or Warehouse Insight, this little guy is about $600. Nice little thing, fits in a smock pocket, got a camera, all that kind of fun stuff, and a dedicated barcode scanner. So nice little unit there. And just another, this is another data logic device, but sort of the equivalent of this, just a little less rugged and those sorts of things. And of course, a tablet or whatever if you want to run it on that. All right, so that's a little on the hardware. Oops. I'll be running, again, everything on here. And so that you can see the screen better, what I'll be doing is I'll bring up the screen of this device over here. So as I scan and things like that and touch the screen, you'll see it show up over here on this side of it. All right, now with that, let's get started and talk a little bit about this. So all of the applications you see here are actually managed right in Business Central. So I'm actually going to switch over to Business Central or Nav. So in here, any of the applications or fact boxes or menus or fields that you see on the device, that's all managed here out of Business Central or Nav. So again, if you want to tailor this thing through configuration or through building your own application or changing existing applications, you do it all in Business Central or Nav. Okay, so when I fire up the scanner, what it does is it loads all those applications from Business Central and shows me my default main menu here based on who I'm logged in as. And as far as the logins go, you can log in as a Business Central user if you like, or you can use what we call an InsightWorks user, where we log in as like Mark and the password's 123 or whatever it happens to be. So you don't have to set up an Active Directory user to use the thing, but still track the warehouse employee's name and everything else. Okay, now let's go through these applications and I'll jump in and show you how they actually work. The first thing I'll mention though is, you'll notice we're on Wi-Fi here, right? So I'm connected to our office Wi-Fi over the internet to our Business Central Cloud instance. And so everything we're doing is real time. Again, there's no separate database or anything like that. As I'm scanning, it's going right into Business Central in real time and doing whatever it needs to do there. We do have the ability to scan offline. So there is a scratch pad mode here. So if the network goes down or something bad happens, I can come in, I can keep scanning, right? So I can capture my lot numbers, my serial numbers, things like that offline. And when I'm back online, I can scan those back or upload those into Business Central and process those scans in Business Central. Okay, now the other apps on here, we've got the inquiry mode. So inquiry just allows me to scan a barcode. Sorry, this is getting in my way here. Scan a barcode and it tells me what it is, right? So item number, lot number, serial number, whatever, and it'll go in and tell me what I've just scanned. Bin inquiry is the same thing. Scan a bin, it tells me what's in that bin. Now, one note on the bins here, we don't care how you've got Business Central set up. So if you don't have bins enabled, no problem. We don't scan bins and we don't show bins anywhere else in here. So what that means is anything from a location that has no bins, no directed put away, any of that sort of thing you can use, all the way up to the directed put away and pick locations, so sort of the advanced warehousing. So what that means is you could have a retail store that runs this and a distribution center that also runs it. You're running the same software, maybe different devices for the stores or whatever, but everything is running out of the same system, okay, regardless of your configuration. Now, we've got the inventory count. It allows us obviously to do counts, cycle counts, and full physical counts. On the receiving side, I've got the two-stage receiving turned on. So I've got the directed put away turned on, which means I receive everything into a receiving area. I do a secondary activity to put that away. And again, that's how you set up your Business Central location. And usually what I tell people is, figure out your best practice physical process, right? Do you want bins? Do you want two-stage receiving? Those sorts of things. Figure that out. And then you configure Business Central to match how you want your physical location to run. Same thing with picks and shipping. I've got that two-stage picking turned on. So I pick everything, I drop it off at shipping, or I pick everything, I drop it off at production, and we let somebody else take over and do the work from there. On the movements here, I can do ad hoc moves, and I can do inventory or warehouse movements. In manufacturing, we can do consumption and output. So what that allows me to do is manual consumption of product on the handheld device, and we extend the base Business Central consumption a bit for better item tracking and things like that. And I can do output of that production as well. So I can sort of receive those finished goods into stock. We can also do assembly orders, which are somewhat related to production. So I can do assemble to order or assemble to stock on the device. I can pick and I can output those assembly orders. And then license plating here is a bit of an advanced tool. So what that allows me to do is group items together under a single barcode. So typically that's used on outbound processing. That's really where its primary use case is, where I'll go in and I'll build up a pallet while I'm picking, or I'll build up a pallet at shipping, or maybe even at production. When I do output, I can actually output to a license plate. So what that means is, again, go back to picking, I can be driving down the aisle with a forklift, and as I'm going, I could be building up these pallets or UPS boxes or FedEx boxes or whatever you want. Doesn't matter what we're putting those items into. And when I get over to shipping, we know exactly what I've picked, what pallets or boxes they're in, what lot numbers and serial numbers on each pallet or box, and I can print my bill of lading or possibly send that to an EDI solution for ASNs, all of that kind of good stuff. So that license plating, quite often used on the outbound processing side of it. All right, now with that, last thing I'll talk about before we jump into this is I'm going to go over and I'm going to grab my barcodes. So these barcodes here are generated from our barcode generator tool, but they're just, 1D barcodes and 2D barcodes, right? So this is the type of barcode I'll be scanning. So if you haven't seen those data matrix barcodes, this is what they look like in real life. and I'll just be scanning these guys as we go through the demo. And I'll stick them right there where they get annoying for me. Actually, I'll find another spot to put them. All right, so with that, let's get started. So I'm going to jump into receiving here. And what it does when I open up the receiving app is it shows me all the purchase orders in the system that I can receive against. Now, I might have 300 of these guys in here, but we'll go through a scenario where, you know, I've got a few pallets from the vendor at the back door, and I'm going to start receiving them now. I've got my vendor's packing slip in my hand. It has my purchase order number on it. So I'm just going to find that PO in this list here, or I can come up if I've got, again, 300 POs or whatever in this list. I can type in a few digits, that PO number. It'll filter that list down. I choose it, and away I go. Or I could actually scan an item here on one of those pallets, and it'll filter this list down to the purchase orders that just have that item on it. And at that point, you might want to see which vendor and expected receipt date and everything these purchase orders relate to. So to do that, I just touch the screen and I go into choose columns here, and then I can show any additional information I want on the screen. So if I wanted to see the vendor name, I could make that visible, or the expected receipt date, or whatever. Now again, all of these columns here are defined in Business Central. So if you've got custom fields you want to show, any of that kind of stuff, you can make those visible and show them out here on the handheld device directly. Okay. Now, in my case, I know the purchase order number because I got the vendor's packing slip in my hand. So I'm just going to, you know, use a little down arrow button here. I don't even have to touch the screen for a lot of the activities that we do. Hit enter, and I'm going to open up that purchase order on the screen to receive. Now, if you know what a warehouse receipt is, what it actually did was it created a warehouse receipt for me on the fly here. If you don't know what a warehouse receipt is, just ignore what I just said. But here's all the items I need to receive on this particular receipt. And ideally, your vendor has barcoded everything, so I'm just going to start scanning at this point. Now, if your vendor didn't barcode stuff, you have a couple of options. Number one, I could come in here, I could hit this print option, and I can print labels for maybe everything on this purchase order, or maybe just for the line I have selected, or whatever you've set up in Business Central to do with that specific report. Now, you can also have 10 different print options on here if you like, for different types of label or copy of the PO or whatever you want to print, you can print from here. And what that does, when I hit print, it goes back to Business Central and says, hey, print this report that you've got selected for this button, and it'll spit it out on the printer that's related to this. Now, to do that, we need a cloud printing provider, and of course, the one we use typically is PrintNode. The other option that we have is, you know what, some of this stuff maybe is packaging. I'm never going to print a barcode for it, but I still want to receive it. I could just select a line, and then again, either hit the menu for change quantity, or hit enter, that's why it's nice having these physical keypads, right? You can get devices that don't have a physical keypad whatsoever. But the physical keypad is kind of nice because I can just hit enter instead of tapping the menu, and I can just enter a quantity here manually without scanning anything if I don't want. But again, what we want to do is we want to do barcode scanning because that's why you're here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this barcode and I'm going to scan this 1908-S barcode, right? That's this guy right here at the top, and I'm just going to scan that guy. And when I scan that barcode, what it does is it often shows me a picture of that item, and that's handy if you're doing your own barcoding, right? There it showed me a picture of a chair. If I've got, you know, a banana or an apple or something in my hand, and I've got a problem with the barcode, and I can, you know, deal with it right there without continuing. But here I scanned that, and now I can just enter the quantity that I found in that particular pallet or box, enter that, and we've updated Business Central with that quantity, and we've got 8 left to find in this specific receipt, right? Simple as that. And again, it's all real time. There's no syncing. There's no separate database. We sent that quantity to Business Central in real time. It updated, and we're good to go. And again, when I say Business Central, that includes an app as well. Now, let's say I get to the second or third pallet and I find more of those 1908-S things. I scan that barcode again and can bring up the picture. We can hide that quickly if we like. And now I enter, you know, let's say I found 2 in this pallet, and all it's doing is it's updating my quantity that's outstanding and updating Business Central with what I've received. So what that means is we don't have to unpack everything, put it into its own little pile and count it up once. We can actually enter the quantities, you know, as we're finding these things on the pallets, and the system keeps track of it for us. Now, last thing I'll mention well, I lie, lots more things I'll mention, but let's talk about lot numbers and serial numbers. So these bottom 2 items are lot tracked and serial tracked. So here I've got a barcode Now it's sort of a custom barcode, but it's got the item number and lot number in that barcode. And I'm going to scan that. So when I scan that guy, what it's going to do is it's going to bring up the screen with the lot number in it. Now, if that barcode didn't have the lot number, it would have highlighted this field, and then I could scan a secondary barcode with that lot number. I can have the system generate that lot number for me automatically, or I can type in the lot number if it's just like a human readable printed lot number. Speaking of which, if it is a printed lot number or embossed or dot matrix printed or whatever on that package, we do have scanners available that will OCR that. So I can actually scan that text and it'll read it in and put that lot number in. And it's pretty accurate and it's almost as fast as scanning a barcode. So if you have that situation where you're in foods or pharmaceuticals or whatever, where the lot number is actually printed on the box, we can likely still scan that without you having to generate a barcode for that lot number. Okay, anyway, everything on the screen could have come in from that barcode. So lot number, expiration date, quantity, unit of measure, all of that could have come in from that barcode. By the way, we can change that unit of measure here at any point manually if you want to receive in a different unit of measure. We've got a little calculator there if you want to multiply 13 cases by 17 in a case or whatever it happens to be, that kind of stuff. We've also got the ability to enter additional information through what we call lot information. So if you want to capture additional fields related to this lot number or serial number, you can come in here and you can enter that. So this can be really any data you like. If you extend Business Central to have additional fields, like, it's got a certificate number here, but if you want a heat number or some other data that you want to capture, you can put it in here and we can pop that up and capture that information for you at that point. But here we're going to keep it simple. I scanned in this lot number. I'm going to receive 22 of those, and that's it. We've now updated Business Central with that lot number. If I scan a different lot number, so here's one that's got lot number 2 instead. So I scan that barcode instead, and now it brings up lot number 2 as you would expect, and I enter 35 of that lot number, and we're done. Okay, that's receiving. That's lot numbers. Serial numbers work the same way. It just doesn't prompt us for quantity because serial numbers are always a quantity of 1. So that's basically it. That is receiving. Scan barcode, optionally enter quantity or hit enter to accept the full quantity, and we're done. Now, a couple of other things we can do here in receiving. Number one is I can come in and I can take photos. So this take picture capability, that's a standard menu action you can enable pretty much anywhere in the system, but the two sort of primary use cases or default areas are in receiving and shipping. So in receiving, if I receive damaged product here, or I receive the wrong product or something like that, I can take photos of that. Those will automatically upload and attach to the purchase order. Now the purchaser has what they need to start a claim on this particular PO. Okay. The other thing we can do is that license plating that I mentioned earlier. We can also do that on inbound and for other things. Again, it's meant for outbound processing, but if I want to palletize things as I'm receiving them, I can do that here, and then I've got one barcode to scan to move it into the warehouse. Okay. And then finally on here, we can do post, and posting will post this receipt. So I can set it up 3 ways. One is I can set it up so as soon as I leave this screen, it automatically posts everything I've received so far, or I can set it up so somebody manually has to come in and post it. And you'll notice it's got this F9, that's a hotkey. So that's one of these function keys at the bottom here I can press instead of having to tap the menu. Or I could hide that menu completely if I don't want anybody who's receiving to be able to post transactions. Okay, so that's basically it. That is receiving in a nutshell. Scan and away I go. Now, one other thing I'll mention is we can actually build up cross references here as we go. So if I scan a barcode that it's never seen before, it'll pop up and ask me what item that barcode relates to. So if you don't have that cross reference for your vendors built up yet, you can do that from within the receiving screen as well. Okay. All right, so that's basically it for receiving. Pretty simple. Doesn't look like there's any questions, so either nobody can hear me or I'm doing a good job. Either way, easier on me. Okay, let's now, after I've received it, I can do that put away to put it into stock if you've got that turned on. We can also do cross-docking, where if I've got back-ordered items, it can alert me, hey, there's some back-ordered stuff. You need to go and put that away, and I'll go ahead and do that. Like put some in shipping and some in the warehouse. Now, after I've put it away, I'm going to do a pick. So with picks, the way it works is these picks here, I've got warehouse picks enabled. So that's what I'm seeing is warehouse pick documents. If I didn't have warehouse picks enabled, I would see, well, potentially inventory picks, but I'd see a list of sales orders and transfer orders in this list instead. So again, it doesn't matter how you've got Business Central set up. You're going to have warehouse picks, inventory picks, or pick directly to sales orders and transfer orders. When Business Central generates the pick, that's sort of the standard Business Central capability. We can do batch picking, we can do wave picking, we can do all sorts of fun stuff. So we can combine multiple sales orders on the same pick ticket. We can, split one sales order up across multiple pick tickets. We can have production orders in here. All of that kind of stuff can be done. Okay. Now, in my case, I'm going to actually choose one off this list, but the typical scenario is people still print a paper copy of the pick ticket. And the reason for that is, hey, there's a piece of paper on the printer, means I have work to do. So I scan it and I start my work. And then when I'm done, I drop that piece of paper off at shipping or production so they know what the heck I just dropped at the bottom of their feet. Now, in my case, I'm just going to choose this pick number 4 and start it up. And it's going to show me everything that I need to pick for that particular pick ticket or order or whatever you've loaded. So there's all the items. And of course, I have bins enabled, so it shows me the bin field here. If you don't have that, we can show the shelf number or just leave that blank and you just go find the items and scan it. With these, with the bins enabled, I've also got it set up so that I have to scan the bin. It shows at the bottom here, I have to scan the bin to verify I'm picking out of the right bin. That's technically optional. You can turn that off if you like, so you can just scan the item and not worry about the bin. But we like that inventory accuracy. So I scan the bin to prove I picked this product out of that specific bin and I didn't just find a bunch of these things sitting and receiving somewhere, right? Now this view that you see here, this is what we call the grid view. We also have a card view, and the card view shows me one entry at a time. And once I pick that, it shows me the next entry and so on and so forth. So more like sort of the old school type, warehouse management view, which is handy in some cases, like if you're running on tablets or you want to show a whole bunch of additional information on the screen, those types of things, that card view can be kind of nice. But this one gives me a lot more context and a lot more flexibility. For example, let's say I want to pick all the heaviest stuff first. Well, if you add a weight field in Business Central, I can just simply come in here, add that into the handheld, and I can sort by any column I want in this list, right? If I want to pick by item number instead of bin or whatever. So I can come in here and I can change that sort order to my heart's content. I can also come in here and add columns in here to show additional information, all that kind of fun stuff. And while I'm here, why don't I just, flip into landscape mode here. And when we're going to landscape mode, the way I've got it set up to show some fact boxes on here, right? So we can show those in portrait mode or landscape mode. I've just set them up to show, or both. I set them up to show in landscape. So if you're running this on a tablet, or you can get wearables that you wear on your wrist that show you this stuff. And this gives me, the picture and some pick instructions and all that kind of stuff. Now, clearly these pick instructions, I can't read what it's saying, but if I come in here and tap on it, it'll open it up full screen and I can see any additional information I want to show. So you can put any additional information in there that you like. Okay. All right, let's go back into sort of portrait mode here. I'm going to flip back here. All right. Now, in this mode, the way we start picking is I just start scanning, just like in receiving. It's telling me, Business Central went in and said, this is the pick order you want to use. And you've got options to choose, sort of the order you want to use by default. But it's telling me to start here at aisle 1 and work my way through to aisle 2. I don't want to do that. I'm standing there in aisle 2. That's where I'm going to start picking from. So what do? I walk up to the bin and I scan the barcode of the bin. So whatever bin numbering scheme you want to use, I scan that bin barcode and it, comes in there and says, yep, you're at that particular bin. And then I simply scan the item I'm picking out of that bin. And which one will I scan? Just for fun, I'll scan this 1920 here since I have a barcode sheet with that barcode on it. So I pick it up. So I'm going to scan this 1920 barcode here at the top. So we scan that guy. And again, it optionally shows us the picture of that item. I enter the quantity I'm picking or just hit enter to accept the full quantity. Now I didn't mention in receiving, but we can default this quantity down to whatever you like. That could default into 0, so I'm forced to always type something. It could default to a quantity of 1 so that I have to scan this 8 times to pick it. We can default it in here like I've got to the remaining quantity. And same thing with unit of measure. We can default that in to a whole bunch of different variables, right? So the pick unit of measure, the sales unit of measure, the base unit of measure, the unit of measure out of the barcode, whatever you like. I was going somewhere with this, can't remember where. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So in this particular case, I'm going to come in here, I scan the barcode, I'm just going to hit enter, and I'm going to pick that entire quantity all at once. Simple as that. As soon as my screen wakes up here. All right, so yeah, all right, something weird there, a little bit of Wi-Fi issues maybe with the screen share, but here we've got the quantity of 0 that's left and 8 that I've picked, and that's basically it, right? And you'll notice it does show that 0 quantity here on the line, but I can come in here and I can use this hide completed action, and what that does is just hides everything that I've picked in full. So this will basically, this list just gets shorter and shorter as I complete my picks. Or if I do want to see everything I've picked, including the ones that I've fully picked, I just turn that on and I can see those guys. Now, let's say, I get to this first item here, and I get to that bin and I actually can't find that particular item. It's not in the bin, or there's not enough there, or something like that. So now I've got an inventory issue. And ideally, you'll never have these if you go to barcoding, because you're physically verifying everything you do, and in theory, nothing's going to ever get out of sync. But let's say in this case, I've got some issue for some reason. Well, how do I address that? Well, you have a few options. Number one, since we're on an Android device here, you can run effectively any app you like on this device. So one of them happens to be Teams or Zoom or whatever app you want to run. The nice thing about Teams is it's got a walkie-talkie mode. If you didn't know that, it's true. I'll show you in a sec. So what I can do is I can actually use this device as a walkie-talkie. So to get into a walkie-talkie mode, I'm just going to come in here, tap this, flip over to Teams, and here I can now broadcast to anybody in that warehouse walkie-talkie channel, right? So that's it. So if you're running Teams already, you can actually use it as a walkie-talkie, or you can run Zoom or whatever the heck you want to run on this device. But that's a nice, easy way to go in and talk to other people within the facility. Or I don't want to talk to them because they screwed up and ruined my life, and I'm going to fix this on my own. So how do I do that? Well, one of the options is I can come in here and I can use this F7 key to drill down. And when I tap that, what it does is it drills down into the item inquiry. And it shows me everything I need to know about that particular item, right? So how many I have in stock, where I can find it in the warehouse, all of that kind of stuff. So all the different bins. Now, again, if you don't have bins turned on, it doesn't matter. This will just show me what I have in stock and the shelf number and that sort of thing. If you have lot warehouse tracking turned on, so in other words, you record which bin each lot number is in, I can also see the lot number and expiration date for each of these items. So if I'm trying to pick the oldest product first, I can use that to find the oldest product. All right, so this tells me some alternate locations I can pick from. I can also come in there and look at recent transactions. So I can find out, oh, this was just put away today. Well, who did that? They clearly did something wrong. I'll hunt them down and figure out what's going on. Or maybe there's another outstanding pick, and yeah, I know that guy who always picks cases instead of eaches or whatever, so I'll hunt him down and get my stuff back as well. Or I get to that bin, it's completely empty. I don't even know what I'm looking for. I can come in and show that picture again, and maybe I just spot this thing sitting on the shelf beside where it's supposed to be. I grab it, move it across, scan it, and away I go, right? So that whole ability to drill down gives you a lot more insight into what's happening in the warehouse. It actually lets you make decisions out there on the shop floor. We've got this computer in our hand. We should use it like a computer and not just a dumb scanning terminal, right? I don't have to run back into the office an hour later, read what I wrote on the back of my hand. I get to make the decisions right here, or at least get the information I need to help me figure out what the heck's going on. Saves a lot of time and money. All right, but that's basically it for picking, right? Bin item quantity is generally what you do. If you've got lot numbers and serial numbers that you want to record at time of pick, same thing as receiving. We scan that barcode. It'll bring in the item and the lot number, the item and the serial number, and we're good to go. Simple as that. If I scan the wrong item or the wrong bin, it's going to yell at me, and we prevent all of those sorts of standard inventory errors. Now, a couple of other things we can do here in picking. One of them is this assign totes. And so if I've got multiple orders I'm picking simultaneously, multiple sales orders on the same pick ticket, I can use the tote functionality to segregate those items while I'm picking. So I can assign the totes, and then when I scan an item, it says, oh, that's item A, that belongs in tote 1. And then I scan tote 1 to verify I put it in the right spot. Oh, you scanned item 6, that belongs in tote 3, and so on and so forth. And then when I get to shipping, I can scan those totes into dynamic ship if you're running that, and that'll load up the order that I need to ship, print my shipping labels, all of those sorts of things. Okay. And there's a bunch of other stuff we can do here. Now, the other thing that we can do is this license plating. So this is where I might want to build up a UPS box or a pallet or whatever I happen to be shipping with. So the most typical example of this is using it for pallets, but again, I can be packing like 10 UPS boxes or 10 FedEx boxes as they go, right? So I can either create the license plate right here, or I can have a bunch of pre-printed labels that I scan to identify the boxes as I'm packaging them up. So we can do that outbound packaging while we're picking. Okay? And that's basically it. That is picking in a nutshell. Bin item quantity. We've got the card view if you want to show one item at a time, or this grid view where we can see everything we need to do all at once. Pretty simple, right? That's all there is to it. All right, now we're doing for time. Ooh, I've been not talking fast enough or being too babbly here. All right, let's talk a little bit about inventory counts because, you know, I talk about inventory accuracy all the time. So it is really important to have a tool that helps you validate that inventory accuracy, right? And inventory counts suck. Nobody likes to do an inventory count. So having a tool that makes it easy and quick to do those inventory counts is hugely important. Now we actually have two inventory count modules. One is what we call the basic count or standard count. And that basically just works with the physical inventory journal in Nav or Business Central. So fairly basic. The advanced count is a lot more, well, advanced. It reconciles down to the lot number and serial number level, gives you a whole bunch of goodies in there that you can use. So how do we price all this stuff? Again, just to reiterate the two different sort of versions, they're not really two different versions, but the two different products that we have. Warehouse Insight, which is what I showed you today, and WMS Express. Now, the neat thing about this is pretty much everything I've shown you today, aside from a few minor features, is available in WMS Express. So that receiving, the picking, all of that kind of stuff is available in WMS Express, and that is the free version. So that's the free version. If you need to do the stuff I've shown you today, you can get that with WMS Express. And if you go to WMSexpress.com, it'll give you the breakdown of what it can do and what it can't do, that kind of stuff. Now, if you want the paid version, which allows you to do customizations and, you know, it has a license plating and the photo, all that kind of good stuff, you'd want Warehouse Insight. And the way we price that is typically by device license. So what that means is if you have 10 devices out there, you need 10 licenses from us. Well, not entirely true because it's concurrent. If I have 10 devices out there on the shop floor, but I only ever use 5 at the same time, you would only need 5 licenses from us. You can use all 10 devices as long as only 5 are used at the same time at any given time. And it doesn't matter how many employees you have. You could have 100 different employees using those 10 devices. You only need to license the device, not the employee. And the same goes for Microsoft. Now, Microsoft needs some money. They're poor. You got to give them, you know, help them out here. And they have the same concept. They have a device license, which is a concurrent device license. So again, if you have 10 devices, but you only ever use 5 at a time, you need 5 licenses from Microsoft. And again, you don't need Business Central user licensing for these devices. They can just be that device license that's shared between tons of employees. And by the way, just as an aside, because this came up the other day, even if you have an external warehouse management solution, you still need these device licenses, right? Even though they're working off their own database and everything else, if you have 10 devices out there, you still have to pay Microsoft for those devices, even if they're not directly connected to Business Central, just an aside. Now, there are a couple other ways you can license it. So Named is another one with Business Central, where if I already have a Business Central login, like I'm logging into Business Central already, and I have my own scanner, I don't need to buy a device license for that scanner. I just use my existing Business Central login and it'll work on that device, and I don't need any additional licensing from Microsoft, right? So that's handy if you're a warehouse supervisor with your own device, or you have, you know, standard 3 or 4 people in the warehouse that have their own devices and you never share any of that sort of thing. You don't need additional licensing if they already have a Business Central license. Okay. And our knowledge base, I'll point you to in a minute, has more discussion on the licensing. Now, there are some additional modules. I briefly mentioned Dynamic Ship, but what that does is allows you to print, you know, your carrier labels, your FedEx, UPS, USPS, Purelator, whatever labels you have, you can print it out, do rate shopping, all sorts of good stuff. So it's really your shipping integration. So you can add that in. That's one cost per warehouse. and then you have access to all that shipping capability. And then we can also integrate that with Warehouse Insights. So for example, we can come in and add a custom menu on the Warehouse Insights screen that prints your UPS label after you've completed picking or whatever you want to do. Okay, so we can integrate that with Warehouse Insight. The advanced inventory count I just showed you is one cost per company, so it's an additional cost. It's not per device or per user. And same thing with license plating. It's just one additional cost per company, not per user or anything else. If you don't need those things, don't buy them, and you're set. All right. Now with that, if you have any additional questions, feel free to contact us. Go to our website. There's a chat window there and also a contact button. Or if you want to see webinars like this on Dynamic Ship or anything else, there is a sign up for those on the website. Or you can go to YouTube and you can sign up on our YouTube channel as well if you like. But if you go to YouTube or our website, you can review recorded demos on pretty much every product that we have out there. This knowledge base, again, gives you access. There's an FAQ on there for the licensing, but also gives you access to the user guides, the development guide, all of that kind of stuff, both for the paid products and the free products if you happen to be implementing those. Finally, the hardware, like I've mentioned before, you can go to the web shop and it'll give you a buyer's help in figuring out what kind of device you might want to buy, and then the pricing and everything else. If you're buying a lot of devices, typically 5 to 10 or more, give us a shout and we can give you a more formal quote, or you can just buy them off the shop directly. All right, with that, I don't think I have anything else. So I hope you all have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon. Thanks, everyone. Good morning.
Just going to click on from that side, sorry. Thank you, obviously, everyone, for attending today, and thanks to Brian and Mark for having those videos prepared for us. Next week, we do have Serious Payroll and Netronic Software presenting. So if I don't see you before, then I'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.